Hello, my name is Veer Animus of VA Games. I would like to thank you for joining me for my 13th episode of my Let's Play Sonic 3 and Knuckles series. After almost what has been a year of procrastination and failure, we have finally made it aboard the Death Egg. Let us review the events that actually brought us here. The Death Egg is Robotnik's orbital space station, which is a blatant and obviously intentional spoof of the planet-killing Death Star of the Star Wars series. The Death Egg is the inspiration for many of the levels and features of the future Sonic games, all that seem to end with space-themed stages or heavily mechanical or industrial final stages. It appeared at the end of Sonic 2, not actually here at Sonic 3, which actually begins a 3-game series known as the Death Egg Saga. That starts with Sonic 2, continues in Sonic 3, and ends in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Or Sonic and Knuckles, I'm sorry. You never actually see its hull in Sonic 2, you only get to see the inside. It's the site of 2 boss battles. You first encounter Mecha Sonic, and then you fight Robotnik. The Mecha Sonic is actually the same Mecha Sonic that we fought in the Sky Sanctuary Zone, but it is not the same as the Metal Sonic, which is seen in other games. I know off the top of my head you do get to play as Metal Sonic in Sonic Adventure 2. He's also sometimes known as the Silver Sonic, but that's neither here nor there. The Mecha Sonic that we fought in Sky Sanctuary is actually much easier than the Mecha Sonic that you fight in Sonic 2, mostly because the battleground is much more open and you actually get to use rings. There were no rings in the entire last stage of Sonic 2, which made it pretty difficult. But at the end of Sonic 2, when Sonic defeats Robotnik, he causes the Death Egg to crash into the Angel Island, or the floating island, whatever you want to call it. And that is where our good friend Knuckles the Echidna resides, and Sonic 3 begins. Sonic 3 is actually the first time, during the course of Sonic 3, you finally do get to see the image of the Death Egg from the outside, which is pretty interesting because, like I said, it looks just like the Death Star, only with Robotnik's face on it. But anyway, after the Death Egg crashes into the Angel Island, Robotnik makes contact with Knuckles while he's looking for the Death Egg, and realizes that he's the guardian of the Master Emerald and lone sentient resident of the Angel Island. He tricks Knuckles into believing that Sonic is looking to steal the Master Emerald and or the Chaos Emeralds, and causes Knuckles to go after him. While Knuckles is going after Sonic now, Robotnik begins constructing a massive launch base around the crash site of the Death Egg, and uses Knuckles to buy him time and hinder Sonic's progression. Sonic chases Robotnik to the Angel Island with the 7 Chaos Emeralds in tow, in supersonic form even, as seen in the opening cutscene for Sonic 3, but is ambushed by Knuckles on the shore. For the first time, Sonic actually has the emeralds stolen from him, and while he's in super form, he's actually knocked out of super form. The emeralds are taken from him, and Knuckles speeds off. Sonic then makes his way, to the launch base site, chasing Knuckles the whole way, and actually reclaiming some of the emeralds, or all of them if you were good enough. And he makes his way to the launch base, and just in time to see the Death Egg start to launch. And he gets on the Death Egg on this platform underneath, and battles Robotnik again. At the end of that, the Death Egg crashes back into the Angel Island, and Sonic 3 is ending. That we saw in the end of my 6th installment of this video in the launch base zone. The Sonic and Knuckles begins, the new game begins, as Sonic and friends and rivals race to the new crash site of the Death Egg, which landed somewhere inside the caldera of the Angel Island's only volcano. Knuckles' playthrough of Sonic and Knuckles actually takes place slightly after Sonic's path, confirmed by the Sandopolis Zone. Sonic finally locates the Death Egg inside the Lava Reef Zone and inadvertently discovers the entrance to the Hidden Palace Zone. The Hidden Palace Zone is the secret home of the Emerald Shrine, which we were previously only able to access through the giant warp rings in the latter stages of the game, like after Stage 7, the Mushroom Hill Zone. Inside the Hidden Palace Zone, Sonic finds Knuckles, and Sonic finally duke it out. And while they're fighting, Robotnik uses their battle as a distraction, while he goes in and steals the Master Emerald. This is, of course, a huge betrayal to Knuckles, and it revealed his Robotnik's true intentions to use the Master Emerald to launch the Death Egg back into space. When Robotnik gets away and wounds Knuckles, he teams up with Sonic, and then they give chase through the collapsing Sky Sanctuary Zone. Just at the very end of the Sky Sanctuary Zone, as it is crumbling to pieces, Sonic and Tails, if he's with you, are able to actually leap from the top of the Sky Sanctuary and board the Death Egg. And that's where we are now. Well, thank you very much for bearing with me for that very long-winded retelling of the entire series plot. And I appreciate, you guys sticking around for 13 episodes. I wasn't really sure it was going to make it this far. There have been a lot of problems, but I'm trying to get through it as fast as possible. And I had a lot of fun doing it. It was challenging. It was hard. This is a very new experience for me, but it was a lot of fun. It is almost over. We are approaching the mini-boss for Act 2, and before we get there, I did want to talk for a brief moment about the mini-boss of Act 1. I don't know what it was called. The only name I have for it is the mainframe, and I kind of stole that from a YouTuber called Cybershell, who did a Sonic 3 and Knuckles Let's Play. His is actually of a much higher caliber than my own. He did a very good job, very high production value, and he was funny, and he actually did the entire classic Sonic series and all of the story arcs of Sonic 3. So I'm going to leave links to that. I suggest you check that out as well. But my advice for that boss fight is just to be really patient, look for openings, but be aggressive and never let up. When you go in and you hit him, you can score several hits at every opening. Take advantage of those the time of invincibility after you get hit. But now we're at the mini-boss for Act 2, and as you can see, those little shields that are around him will follow. One will follow Sonic, and one will follow Tails. So it is impossible for either of them to damage this, to damage it directly. The only way to do it is to use this gravity gimmick and cause the spikes to hit the enemy, when the gravity shifts. I did learn afterwards that you can actually spin dash into them when they're upside down, and actually cause them to flip and hopefully hit the thing. But it's an easy fight. It's just kind of long-winded and a little bit longer than you hope. But when you destroy him, Robotnik will, of course, he's going to run away. And he runs into a giant mech robot that looks very much like the incarnation of, the final boss of Sonic 2. The fight itself is kind of a throwback to the Lava Reef Zone Act 1, where you have to destroy the hands and the fingers. This is important to note here that if you die at all after you defeat that first mini-boss, you will restart at this point with no rings, which will make this fight extremely hard, and much harder than it needs to be. So be very careful when you get here. This is kind of like the point of no return. You fight this thing, like I said, the same way that you fought the boss from Lava Reef Zone. You can use a spin dash to kind of get through it, but it's really not necessary. When you destroy him, he will re-emerge at the far left and cause the platforms that you're standing on to start to collapse. It is a little bit tricky at this part. You have to be very careful not to fall into that gap on the far left. The idea is to jump into the shell and reveal the Master Emerald that's powering the machine. The Master Emerald will fire a laser beam at you, and you just have to attack it a few times. Like I said, it's just a matter of being very careful. This is where you want to, not push it and rush. When you destroy it, Dr. Robotnik will make another attempt to get away from you. It only takes a few hits to destroy him at this point. He's not going to actually fight back, but if you're not careful, you can fall into the gap on the far left. When you do destroy him, the game will jump right into Zone 14, the Doomsday Zone, which is where we will head next.